Hi, my name's Hugh Ellis and I'm Policy Director at the TCPA, and this is the first in a series of short videos on the relationship between the planning system and dealing with climate adaptation and flood risk. And in this session I'm just going to quickly say what the key components, the building blocks if you like, are of the relationship between our planning system and how we can deal with a changing climate. The first block of that sense is that the climate impacts are becoming much more severe and are happening much faster than we'd anticipated 5 or 10 years ago. And those kind of impacts fall into increased surface water flooding, increased river flooding, coastal flooding, and particular sea level rise. And if you want to get an understanding of that from a government perspective, do have a look at the .gov website at the Environment Agency's flood risk allowances, which give you an indication of things like increase in river flows. But the simple point is this, that we are going to have to re-engineer almost all of our communities across the nation if we're going to be fit for the kind of climate emergency that's coming down the line. And a lot of communities are being repeatedly impacted now in relation to those climate impacts. So, this is an urgent agenda. The second block, I guess, is that the impact of climate change is direct on people's lives in terms of flood events, but it will also have a massive impact on the economy. And that's because if we don't deal with resilience, making places resilient to these impacts, then gaining insurance will become more difficult and it will become more expensive. So if you like, there's a climate tsunami potentially, but there's also an economic one behind this. So climate change should be the top priority for the planning system. And the kind of final block of sense is, well, what the hell can the planning system do about it? Well, in fact, the current system can do an awful lot if it has the capacity and resources to do so. So it's about planning new development in places which are intrinsically resilient to the kind of impacts that we want. So that's either about not planning new housing in Category 3 floodplains, but it's also about the way we design buildings and whether they're resilient to future flood events. And that is critical, but it's quite difficult at the moment. So in the other short sessions I'm going to do, we're going to talk about how things like viability testing and the way we plan for flood risk can kind of get in the way of that process. But my message to communities, and particularly to local politicians, is that if your plan and your planners are not 100% prioritising dealing with climate change, you've got the wrong plan. It is our biggest crisis and we have to deal with it now.